Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Amit, and in today's video we're going to go through an honest review about Vera Clinic. So if you guys don't already know, I went to Istanbul, Turkey twice to get 2 hair transplants done. I got in total about 10,000 grafts over those 2 times, and I went to the same clinic in Istanbul, Turkey, which was Vera Clinic. My friend recently decided to get a hair transplant as well, so I thought I'd tag along and bring him to the same clinic that I went to and hopefully give him the same experience that I had. Little did I know that Vera Clinic has had a completely change of facility, and his experience was done at this new spot. So I thought it'd be interesting to compare those 2 experiences and share it with you guys. So if you're planning to get a hair transplant in the future at Vera Clinic, you know exactly what to expect, what type of facility they have now, and hopefully answer any questions that you have along the way about going to this clinic. So before we jump into all of that, if you haven't already, do drop me a like and subscribe to the channel. I've been documenting my entire journey of a hair transplant on this channel and provided a lot of good tips and useful information to you guys as well. So if you're enjoying the content like this, definitely do consider liking it. Alright, so let's try to break this down into a couple of things. The first thing I want to talk about is the similarities that I found from getting my hair transplant done in the first facility versus the transplant that was done in the second. One of the first things that were exactly the same, no changes at all, was the airport pickup. The moment I landed in Istanbul, I got the same messages from the clinic, got the same information, the same number even for a pickup, and eventually I met my driver and we were on our way to the hotel. The hotel I stayed at was Elite World Asia, which is also the same hotel that I stayed at previously, and the distance from the airport to the hotel was about 45 minutes, exactly the same as the first time that I went. When I got to the hotel, I also had pretty much the same room. It was kind of the same layout, just on the opposite side. This seems like to be a very popular hotel that Vera Clinic works with. You see a lot of patients from the clinic staying at this hotel when you go down for breakfast. Speaking of breakfast, it is also mostly the same. So we move on now to us getting picked up from the hotel to the new clinic. I was only aware that we were going to the new facility once we were picked up, because the direction that we were going was the opposite side of where the old Vera Clinic's facility was. It took us about 20 minutes to get to this new facility, and honestly, time really flew by because we had company for each other in the van. One of the other similarities was being assigned a translator immediately. Our translator was really nice. She was helping us throughout the way, but honestly, a lot of people were already speaking English at the clinic, so it was just good for her to be there to guide us along the way. But I think Vera Clinic has now gotten better with languages, that English seems to be a very common thing over there. I spoke to a lot of people at the clinic and 90% of them spoke English. Another similarity we had was the same doctor. I don't know if they planned that, but basically the doctor that I had for my last hair transplant was the same exact doctor that my friend had for his consultation as well. And it was nice to see a familiar face after so long, and it was nice that he could even assess me afterwards. I've just posted a video about that. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It was just good to know that there was still somebody who understood my situation, who could also relay that to my friend afterwards. So it was a nice little nostalgic type of feeling, but yeah, that was the same thing that happened with me. Another thing that was pretty much the same was once the consultation was done and he was getting ready for his surgery, he had to go draw his blood. He had to get a couple of before and after photos taken, and of course the head shaving. This exact same thing happened to me. I went to a room, drew my blood, went for a before and after photo, and then finally I went and got my head shaved. Pretty much the same procedure. Nothing changed there. Alright, so for the differences, one of the main things is obviously we went to a different facility, and this facility was without a doubt much better than the one that I went to. The one I went to was nice, but it was significantly smaller. This one was just huge. They had 4 floors in total of the clinic. The main ground floor was where the reception was, as well as their coffee shop that they had. I think it was a Starbucks. Then the first level was basically where they would have their consultations with their doctors, and they have many different rooms, as well as the head wash area, which is really nice to see. It was definitely a nicer upgrade versus the one that I had during my time. There's also a little interview room for anyone who's coming to the clinic and they want to have some feedback on what they're doing. There's a little section for that. My friend even got his interview done with the clinic when they filmed his whole experience. They had different type of rooms for post meetings as well, when the staff would come and explain exactly how many grafts we had got done, and then they'd show them exactly how to wash your head after a hair transplant. So all these little things were happening throughout on this floor after you got your hair transplant, which was pretty interesting. On the basement level of the floor, that's where the actual procedure was happening. That's where you drew your blood, you got your head shaved, and finally you went into the procedure room. I wasn't allowed to go into the procedure room, but I managed to ask the staff there to film a little bit just to see kind of how it looks. It definitely does seem a little smaller than the one that I had in my clinic, because that clinic was such huge rooms. But at the end of the day, again, I couldn't see so much of it, but it does look like a tiny bit smaller room versus the one that I went for. And finally, on the top floor, it was Vera Smile, which is basically a subsidiary of what they're doing not just hair transplants, but they also do teeth restoration. I thought that was pretty cool to see a whole floor dedicated to that, which means I guess they have some patients that come in and get that done. I think they had that at the previous clinic as well. I just never got a chance to go and take a look, but it was nice to see it this time around. So again, if you're looking to get some sort of teeth restoration and a hair transplant, you may as well do 2 at 1 at this clinic. Moving on from the facility in general, again, it's a pretty great facility. You feel very at home, but at the end of it, we want to know the nitty-gritties of what actually is different. So one of the main things that was different was that for me, when I had my follicles inspected, the doctor was actually there physically and looking at it together while I was getting it inspected. During my friend's transplant, that section was done prior to even seeing the doctor. There was another staff in the room, and she basically checked his follicles using a microscopic camera to just look at his donor area and look at the existing hairs on his scalp. I asked the translator about why isn't the doctor here? Is it just that this person is going to see the scalp and how it looks? They told me that anything they're seeing, the data is being captured and being sent to the doctor, which is basically what we did right afterwards to see him. It was interesting because again, when I was there, the doctor was there physically to see all of that and also explain certain things to me along the way, but I guess they've changed their methods. They basically probably have like a first check, and then finally when they get to the doctor has a bigger inspection based off of the data that's been sent to him. Another difference was that I felt that the consultation was much more in-depth versus mine. I did ask as many questions as I could back in the day, but definitely since that period, I've learned to ask even more, which I coached my friend Kinjal as well on asking the right questions and relative questions to his condition. Like for example, he already had a hair transplant, and the second one that he was going for was worried whether he didn't have enough donor hairs left. We formed a bunch of questions in preparation to speak to the doctor and hopefully get the right answer. So that was definitely good because it was more in depth and we just got more information generally. Which is why I suggest everybody prepare more questions if you end up going for a hair transplant anywhere, regardless of the clinic. It really does help in the long run. So for the head shaving, there was one different thing that happened. The doctor basically was there this time around, specifically pointing out the areas that had to be drawn for the donor area. During my time, I didn't have that. I had the guy who was shaving my head who basically drew everything for me. I just thought that was the way it was. At the end of the drawing and the head shaving, then a doctor only came in and inspected to check whether everything is correct. But for this time around, the doctor was physically there guiding the person to draw the line to make sure that this is the area of the donor hair that needs to be extracted. Hopefully that happens more in the future because I feel like it's important for the doctor to be there while that drawing is happening, so you're not taking from areas that you're not supposed to be taking, because that person was not there during the consultation, so it wouldn't make sense that they just would magically draw the line without knowing. If that makes sense. So I think it's really important that the doctor's there, and I'm glad he was there this time around. Another thing I noticed that was a difference was that there are a lot more people at the clinic. And when I say a lot more people, I mean like families were at clinics. It was interesting to see that there are more and more people allowed into these type of places to maybe help support somebody who's going for a hair transplant within their family. And it was just nice to see more people around. It's become increasingly more popular, this clinic, and obviously with their new facility, I'm sure more and more people are more drawn to it. It's nice just to know that it's not as closed off as what I thought it used to be, because when I went the last time, there was barely anybody at the clinic and it was only patients. But it's nice to see that there's just more people and families, and you can even bring a loved one if you are going on your own anyway. I just think that's really great. So the last difference was actually my friend going for an ozone therapy versus an Oxycure that I did. Back in the day when I went for my hair transplant, I signed up for the package that had the Oxycure therapy afterwards, which basically puts you inside of a chamber where they pump a bunch of oxygen into your body for at least an hour and a half, and you sit there, and it basically helps speeds up recovery for your newly planted hair follicles, and it helps pump oxygen into your scalp to help with recovery as well as growth in the future. So I went for 2 sessions with that when I went for my hair transplant, but this time around my friend, unfortunately, he couldn't get it done because he had a previous ear infection and it just wasn't safe to be inside of a pressurized chamber inhaling oxygen like that. So instead they went with the ozone therapy for him, which is a different type of way that you can still get the oxygen into your body but through your bloodstream. So how it works is that they basically draw some blood from him and eventually pump oxygen into a little bottle, and once that's mixed together with your blood, they put it right back into his body. It was an interesting way to do it. It was also a much quicker way to do it. I'm not sure why they don't recommend that for other people, but basically it was much faster. It took about 10 minutes versus an hour and a half in the oxygen chamber when I went. I wish I probably would have done that, but it We'll have to see whether both ways are even as effective or not. One more thing was the aftercare that was provided from the clinic afterwards. So for my situation, I never signed up for any monthly amount of aftercare. For me, it was I could just buy 1 or 2 and that was it. I didn't have to commit to buying 2 or 3 months worth of product. Of course, that was back in the day. It could be different now. For my friend, he had to commit to I think 3 months of aftercare, which was fine. But at the same time, I felt like it's excessive because the amount they give you, it can last you for roughly around that time. So for example, I bought the shampoo and I bought the serums back in the day. Just 1 bottle of the shampoo lasted me for 3-4 months and it was totally fine. And then afterwards I switched to purchase my own products, which I use now. Everything, by the way, is linked in the description below if you're looking for new products after your hair transplant. You don't have to spend so much money to get that much of product because then you're locked into a commitment with them. Look elsewhere. There's a bunch of different things out there online and some of the ones that I recommend are all in the description below. Alright, I think that's most of the differences and similarities that I found when I went back to Vera Clinic this time around. I think that they've had a massive upgrade and obviously it shows throughout their facility. I've seen snippets of it online, but going there in the flesh and seeing it firsthand was quite an experience. I do think that getting the hair transplant at the older facility was nice, but seeing this upgrade is even nicer. I'm glad my friend got to experience it as well. If you're also somebody who's looking to get a hair transplant at the clinic, I've managed to strike a deal with them to get 5% off for anybody who is basically watching this video. If you click the link in the description below and sign up for a free consultation, you get 5% off of your purchase at Vera Clinic. How it works is that you have to sign up with the link and fill in your details in the booking form. Don't use a WhatsApp, use the booking form. That's the only way you're going to qualify for the discount. You have to sign up before the 31st of December of 2024, as well as pay the deposit before then. That way you'll secure your 5% discount and you can book your session anytime later on this year or the next. If you're going for the hair transplant anyway, get a discount. I wish I had one at the time, but I hope it helps anybody out there to save a little more money. And lastly, if you guys are interested in having a conversation with me one-on-one, I have a hair transplant consultation service that I help anybody who has any questions about a hair transplant. If you're planning to go to Vera Clinic or any other clinic, I'm here to help you. Book some time with me. There's a link also in the description below, and we can try to book maybe a 30-minute or 60-minute session, just fully talking about you and committing my time with you. I also provide follow-ups after that, so it's not just a one-time purchase. If you are looking to have somebody not just to tell you what to do, but also someone who's also a friend, that's me. I'm happy to help. Let's try to begin that conversation together. All right, I think that's all for today. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it's brought some insight to somebody out there who's planning to go get a hair transplant, whether it be from Vera Clinic or not. I do still recommend you checking out their videos. Check out my videos that I've posted about them. You can get a better idea whether that's the right clinic for you. I'm not trying to sell you on it because I don't believe that just because I went there, you should. It's more about I've gone through this experience, and if it resonates with you, then you should definitely consider going for it. I have a couple videos coming out before the holidays. My 18-month video is coming out, my final month of my hair transplant, so definitely stick around for that. Turn on those bell notifications. Like this video as well if you've really enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm trying to reach 10,000 subscribers for the end of the year. I don't think it's going to happen, but your subscription would mean the world to me. So thank you so much again for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.